So, this is episode 7 of the podcast. And the last episode 6, we never actually transferred the video from his cameras, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Very sad. But,
Whatever.
I have the audio. I was looking through some old audio that we had, and I found a lot of things I forgot we did, and from a long time ago, 30 minutes of, a short podcast that we did with Brett and Zach.
What?
From, a year and a half ago. I don't even know what we were talking about, but... And then, some really bad quality Skyrim audio when we played that for Kirby Shock.
We could definitely play Skyrim. Skyrim's fun.
So anyway, last episode we shot about 2 weeks ago with our dear boy Roman. And what we did not disclose to the many listeners was that we'd taken a little something before the recording of said episode.
We did?
Yeah, we did. Because in the episode 1 we talked about your experience on acid for the first time, and we did it.
Oh, I vividly don't remember that.
All right, well, that's okay.
I'm kidding, I do. Continue.
So yeah, we took that, and the podcast was still pretty normal. There was nothing out of the ordinary. We stopped at about the point when the effects started to kick in.
Well, for me personally, it wasn't when it kicked in. It was when I was like, oh god, I don't think I can keep up the conversation anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was quite the experience, and made me think about a lot of stuff and things. Now, first thing I'll say is that clearly I was pretty stressed out during the high point of the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I think actually I know that's 100% because of the location in which we did it in, which was my house right next to my sister and my mother. And I realized that's because, especially when my dad's asleep, I feel like a responsibility to be ready to go. And because all I could think of was if something were to happen, I would be completely out of commission and absolutely useless. If anybody needed help or something. And I realized that's because I feel like a responsibility, as the awake man of the house.
It was the awake man of the house.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
But so that's all I could really think of. And if we did it somewhere else, then it'd be removed, so I wouldn't really be thinking about that.
Understandable.
But yeah, it was because of that though. We kept talking about the wildest things. Mostly, Seos Manos was a good choice to watch during that. By the way, because
really,
it was funny because it was almost the exact length as the
whole
peak
trip
lasted
for.
So it bookended it very nicely, and but we kept talking about we kept rambling on and on about Star Wars or theme parks or. Mm-hmm. That really just Star Wars and theme parks.
And then we argued for 30 minutes about when my girlfriend Jaden was gonna land in Alaska.
Yeah, after that.
I don't understand why I couldn't figure that out. It was just very stupid.
And the reason that we kept coming back to, or at least the reason I kept coming back to talking about Star Wars and theme parks so much and just recounting my trip to a theme park is because it was it felt like my brain had been wiped clean and I was trying to pull things back into it. And reorganize everything and remember everything.
Just who you are.
Yeah, and so I was trying to grab onto something that I know, and I can recount and then slowly walk through the process of remembering all that, and that's because I was trying to pull myself back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, spaghetti.
The dope spaghetti.
Mom, spaghetti.
Lose yourself. We talked about. I didn't get mad. I got really confused and low-key kind of annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never watched any Star Wars, and I was like, there's no black girl in Star Wars. There's no black girl.
Yeah, we argued over the black character in the last Star Wars movie. It's such a weird thing.
Like, no, we argued it for so long. I was like, wait, so she's in the Mandalorian? And you guys like, no.
She's not in the Mandalorian, my dude. No, but such a weird conversation. And looking at pictures on my phone of like, there was a picture of Donald Trump and a picture of Chris Hansen. It was just very, very strange, but that's to be expected.
It was
quite the experience. I'm glad we did it. And like over the course of the next day, I was very out of it for the next day. I was like, slowly one by one, I was trying to remember like how to communicate and talk and how to like walk around without almost falling over, which is the thing I struggle with on a daily basis anyway.
Yeah.
But like yeah, because I mostly just sat on like a chair out there while like we didn't really, it was weird because I felt like we didn't do anything that day. Like it was it was strange how little like everybody else was doing that day. It felt like, because all we did was I took a shower.
Are you talking about after we left?
Yeah, after you left, I took a shower. Was like the first thing I did. Well, I cleaned up everything, then I took a shower, and then like I sat on a chair while we all watched Lost for a couple episodes, and then like we didn't do anything but sit out there in silence for like 3 hours, and it just felt really weird, like something was off about everybody. And then my mom and dad left for a few hours at night, and I watched Oksha again, even though we just watched it before. I just was like, I'm gonna watch it again, and
Oksha.
And then that was it. And then I was unbelievably tired by like 10:30 because we had been awake for almost 35 hours at that point, save for like a 2-hour nap.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to bed, and then yeah, it was quite the time. But
describe the visuals, Kevy.
Well, it was very similar to like the stereotype of like what you see when you're on that stuff, the
like a bunch of
swirlies, the colors, the like flashing lights almost.
And like
literally
yeah.
I thought I saw like a blue light like shine out the window a few times. And very weird.
Like so the setting where we were just on a couch in a room with a TV, and all the lights were off but the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So the only light that was coming in was the colors you'd see from the TV show.
Mm.
So I was like, that had a major play in like.
Yeah, but even then, like way later when the TV was off at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, I still like looked at this window, and like it looked like there was still like a red light, and then it shifted to a blue light, and then it shifted to like a yellow light, and but yeah, that was great stuff. And the taste and the smell was very strange, and it was very electric, you know. It was very like, and that makes sense because it was made in a lab. It's not like a natural substance. Like and I heard somebody describe it in a way that makes a lot of sense, where that stuff is way more like mechanical or like sci-fi almost. Like it works on your brain, while natural stuff like mushrooms are more fantasy instead of sci-fi. Like, and they work on like your heart and your soul, stuff like that, and they feel more. It feels more like organic and natural. So it's like, and I haven't done any mushrooms or anything, but that makes sense to me because it really did feel like things were going into the mechanics of my brain and fixing stuff and unplugging stuff and like plugging it back in and all that. So that definitely made sense to me. But yeah, I realized a few things like on it. It didn't really like there was no like grand epiphany or anything, but it just kind of confirmed a few things that I'd already thought. Like
what were they?
Like that the stuff that I'm doing, like writing my book and like the things I'm doing to prepare for my future and all that, is all like that's what I should be doing. I'm not like going down some wrong, incorrect path. I feel like I'm on the right train track, the right direction, and I should continue in that direction. I felt very confirmed in, especially in the next like day. I felt like, yeah, I'm in a good place. I'm on the right track. That's what I felt. And you mentioned when like the first time there were like two songs that you kept playing over and over
Yeah.
again. Well, it was the same with me. There were two songs that I kept playing over and over again. It was "Delete Forever" by Grimes, which is a great song, and it was like, and the other one was "This Beat Is a Chemical" by Neon Blood.
Beat is a chemical.
And
That's a
which
different
is
song.
not the chlorine, not the original chlorine version. It's like a redo, remix type thing.
Oh, so Chlorine was the original?
Chlorine's the original by 21 Pilots, but this was like a remix basically.
Interesting.
It was like different instrumental and different, slightly different vocals, but it was funny because like I kept listening to those two over and over again, and the "Delete Forever" one felt like what it was like during the high point, and then the other one was like the calm down, and it just kept like going back and forth. I was listening to it like really high, but slowly over time it got less and less.
Interesting.
And like throughout the next day, that's basically all I listened to.
Interesting.
But yeah, that was kind of that whole experience, and it was pretty wild, pretty epic, pretty grand.
I'm curious to see what we still need to listen to our conversation, at least bits of it, because
Yeah,
I feel it was delayed. Not delayed, but like I feel our responses were delayed to each other. You know.
yeah, you're probably right. I kind of skimmed back through it just to kind of hear it,
Yeah.
and it just sounded like kind of normal conversation, except obviously we were way dumber than usual because we couldn't remember anything.
Oh yeah,
about
no,
Star
we
Wars.
retarded. Yeah.
But it just sounded like we were talking normally, and which is very strange because like obviously that's to be expected, but it was like felt like it was in a swimming pool or something, like everything was
Yeah.
muffled, and yeah,
I feel like when you're on it, like you feel really warm, but you don't realize you're warm until you're off it and you get really cold. Is that just me?
I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah,
Because I felt like I felt muffled, and then on the come down, like it felt like my ears popped and I went and like a flow of cold went through me. I was like, whoa.
yeah. There were a few times when it like lessened, like the muffling swimming pool sound lessened, and I was like, whoa! I didn't even realize that it was so loud, so
Yeah.
predominant until it stopped or lessened. So yeah.
That was strange, honestly. No, because okay, let me think. Because we took two.
200 of like the little, because you measure it in like 100 or 150 or
Yeah,
it's 200, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But we took two tabs, and that was. How long did it last? I'm trying to think.
Like the high part, or
The whole thing, ingestion to not.
I still felt the effects of it until like when I was watching Oksha the next day at, like,
You still saw something?
8 o'clock at night, which would have been like 26 hours after we took it. I still could see like faces like moving and stuff like that. I felt like not until Sunday was that all gone.
Damn.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, which was way longer than like I kept looking it up like when's it like done completely? Everyone's like about 15 hours after you've taken it. It's like okay. But,
Okay, Kanye. Whatever you
Yeah.
say.
But yeah.
That was no. What would you? I mean, like, was it? Was it what you expected, basically?
Yeah, it was what I expected, which is not a bad thing. It's just like that's kind of what I figured it would be like.
Really?
I'm
Huh.
trying to think if there was anything unexpected. I mean, I guess like the constant taste or smell is kind of like I didn't expect that specifically, but it wasn't surprising necessarily.
Like this. Well, the first time, or not the first time, but like the time before this one,
Yeah.
my mouth, like it was all touch. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my mouth was like the most interesting thing because I put a cookie in it, and I chew it, and I felt like I could feel like the sugar and the flour and the egg in it, and I know that wasn't actually it, but I just felt. That's kind of like what my senses focused on, but this time it was like hearing and visual, like what I saw.
Yeah.
Like touch was not. I don't know. Maybe just because the first time I was like, the time before this one I was like in in the haunted house, and I was actually like walking around.
Mm-hmm.
But this time it was like I was just sitting and talking.
You weren't walking around during like the high point, were you? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I never would be able to do that. Because, like, we did not leave during that 2 or 3 hour period.
No, we sat here for the whole time.
And, like, I don't know if I could function, like, walk. Obviously, I'm already an uncoordinated MFer, but...
Yeah, he's uncoordinated as he is, but...
But, like, the time... dilution, or not dilution. Dilation, time, just the time, like the way time happened was also very strange. I kept looking over and it was like always an hour and 30 minutes into the recording and it never changed. It was like, it was always that, like it was recording.
Yeah, time
obviously.
perception is very strange.
And, or like Seis Manos, that like how it kept going back to like the scene in the jail or whatever, or the scene in, it felt like the same scene was going on for
Everything
forever.
was longer.
But then after, like when we watched Oksha, that flew by. Like that's 2 hours and it flew by so fast.
It felt like 40 minutes.
Yeah, it felt so short. But
no, that's very... Wow. Wait, that's right. It did feel like 40 minutes.
yeah.
That's crazy. Like, cause in the last time I did it, I had nothing to compare like my time to, because we were constantly moving and going places. Like from the haunted house to back to their house was like a 30 minute drive. It felt like 5 minutes. And I was like, what? Where are we? But no, yeah, it was just crazy. Like, I think I don't know, like, I just found it weird that my senses, like, what my senses were focused on and what senses were more active was very strange. Like, because it was different than my last time. No, yeah, it was very different. I felt very warm. And the other one, I felt way more in control, I guess, of my own body. But other than that, no, yeah, this one just felt very warm. But I don't know, it was just very strange. They were totally two different experiences. That's all I have to say. They were just two totally different experiences.
Yeah, like being in a swimming pool is a really good way to put it. Like really like warm water and it's like flowing around you and
yes,
you're just like deep into something and then you slowly rise back up and then you like float at the top or something.
No, that's very yeah. Or like the first visuals that you got.
It took me a while for me to see anything, but it was really just like lots of colors, and then Seis Manos like really threw me off when weird stuff started happening on there, and I don't know how much was the actual show and like what percentage was the show and what percentage was not the show.
No, oh, that's right.
But
yeah.
But it was just like, I don't even know if I could describe any of them because it was just so weird, and I don't have anything to compare to like what the actual show was like. But then after the high point, it was just a lot of faces like moving and like growing and shrinking.
Yeah.
And on my phone, I looked at my phone and everything was huge. Like text was still, like just the words on my phone still looked big for hours and hours and hours after. And like faces and just like everything was bigger. Like somebody had taken like watercolor or like wet paint and like dripped it
and
on
just
everything,
like dripped it, yeah,
and made it look like big and washed out and all that.
Because for me, it's more like when you mentioned the TV show, it reminded me when I was watching the show and we were all talking. The TV's on a wall, but the show was so much larger than the TV. I felt like I was in the show. I was like, whoa. And it felt like way closer and everything. It was insane. Very strange.
Yeah, and there were points when I'd look over at you and see your face, and it was like, it only happened a couple times, but like your chin was really long, and like just everything was big, like, and weird. And I was like, I don't really like looking at that, so I just look back at the TV. But
because when I look at faces, they like, I don't really understand how to. They're like constantly changing, but not like big changes. Just like little changes, like your face will like sink in a little, or like you have different like definitions on your face.
Yeah, that's
like
what I saw.
It's almost like you're constantly changing like filters, kind of. It was very strange, and that happened the last time, because like my friends always told me I'd comment about their skin and be like, "Whoa, your skin looks so cool and soft." It was very strange. But yeah, that was the only consistent thing that happened in both trips.
Yeah, but we talked about a lot about Star Wars and a lot about also when my sister knocked on the door. That was like the weirdest part because she texted me at like 9:01, which was during the thick of it, just like, and I don't know how I managed to check my phone like immediately after she texted me, because if I had waited a few minutes, she probably would have just come back and opened the door. And but I did, and I responded to her just like a really basic, like, because she asked if we
pencil sharpener.
No, not about that. She was asking.
Oh,
she said, "Do you guys want blankets?" Mom wants to, and she texted me like five times in the space of 1 minute or something. So, but I responded to her just saying like, "We are okay," and then she says, "Are you sure?" And no, she didn't say, "Are you sure?" She said, "Tiger is better than Shia. That her cat's better than mine."
Oh,
I
read that.
I just said false. And but then only like I think it was, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I thought it was only like 4 minutes later she came back and knocked on the door and asked where the pencil sharpener is. And I put it outside earlier, but like when she talked, like I heard her voice and then I heard like an echo of it, like a full like second delay. It was very different from what like talking to you guys. It was like a 2-second delay on like the echo of her voice, but it was all like wobbly and like how do I describe it? Like kind of metallic, but like kind of like it reverbed a whole lot.
Like boing.
Like yeah, exactly.
Oh,
but it was very strange.
Really?
And I was just like, oh, it's out there. She's like, oh yeah, there it is. And then no one else bothered us the rest of the night.
That's actually really. That's actually really weird that you heard their voice like that.
Because like you guys, the only thing different about your guys' voices was the swimming pool aspect of like being all muffled and kind of fuzzy, kind of deep and like low.
Our voices were like kind of muffled.
Well, no, I mean not necessarily muffled, but it just felt like the general. It felt like you were talking through the general hum of the swimming pool, like. Oh. So like I was hearing you through that, but besides that, it was normal. But then like, when she spoke outside the door, it was completely. Very different.
She wasn't with our vibe.
Yeah.
It's actually really weird. Because the first time and this time, I didn't feel anything like that. It was more, I felt muffled, like very warm, but like I did not feel like you guys were talking strangely at all. That was, no, I never really experienced that one before. I should probably ask Roman how his was, but like he's probably just gonna say, "Oh, it was good." I don't know. I'll ask him. But the first time, it was a lot of colors. It was a lot of. Do you know what paisley is?
No, I don't.
Here, I'll show it to you real quick. It's a design. Paisley. It looks like this. That's what I saw the first time, but like it was like this design. But it was like just colors, and they'd like swish around and then be gone. So yeah, that's like the best thing I can compare it to. Like my visuals the first time. Is that what you saw, like for color wise, or like were they just like streaks?
Yeah. Essentially, that's what it was. I mean, there wasn't too much in the way of weird designs. It was just a lot of flashing lights and pools or like swirls and all that, But oh my goodness. But yeah, my teeth, that's what it was. My teeth felt so weird and so tight, and like I was constantly having to remind myself not to be like pushing my teeth together, like
clenching your teeth.
Like clenching my teeth super hard. All the way up until I woke up Sunday morning. I was like still like God, like this, it really hurts. My teeth are like aching because I'm shoving them together so much. And when I was laying on the couch trying to go to sleep, I was just like sitting there with my tongue in between my teeth, like trying to keep them. And that's why I went and put in my retainer, or not retainer, but like the little plastic thing they give you to put on, just so to stop it from my teeth from like cracking while I was asleep. I doubt that would have happened, but
that would hurt. Ow.
Yeah, it was hurting really bad, and they just felt really tight together, and like it was very, very strange. And my whole body felt like super tightened up for a little while, but my teeth lasted way longer than anything else.
Oh my gosh, your teeth. Did I have anything like... My whole body was kind of just like that.
Mm-hmm.
My whole body just felt very...
And like during the midst of it, like how my hands would like fold in like this, or I'd be like scratching at the side of them like this, or...
Yeah, my muscles were very strange.
Yeah.
Like my hand, it
like
went like this.
Myself,
like I like curved my arm in and
mm-hmm.
like... Yeah, no. Yeah, that happened
and
to
then
me too.
At one point we like noticed that we were like interlocking arms like really bizarrely. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, we had I think we'd I put in my arm like this, and then I went further and like tried to do this, and I was like, what the... Or no, it wasn't like that. It was different. It was like this. It was like this, and like we were both doing it, just like unconsciously aware, and then we were like, what the heck are we... Why are we like interlocking our bodies or something? It was very strange, but then we didn't do that. Didn't happen again.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was like, what the hell? And then because we were in the middle of conversation, so I was like, what are we doing? And then we went right back to talking about whatever we were talking about.
Yeah, you get a very short attention span when you're on that,
mm-hmm.
when you're on acid.
Yeah.
Very that reminds me. So, do you have anything else to say about acid before I... Not switch it, but like I've some
I guess all I would say is I'm probably not planning on taking that specifically again for a while. Like, probably not within the next year. Probably at least like another year before I would do that again. Either in another year, or if something like drastic changed in my life, like if my book was like unbelievably successful and we all moved to LA, and just like something like drastic changed, and then I'd want to take it again to kind of get a vibe check. But
vibe check.
But probably not until like another year from now.
Oh, that reminds me. Vibe check about that. On my first, like this time I didn't get anything, like any vibe check, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But on the first time I was like super hyperactive, not hyperactive, but like after it, I was like very what's the word, like self-conscious, self-aware, like hyper self-aware
mm-hmm.
about how I acted the whole day. I was like, was I behaving myself? Not like behaving myself, but like, was I a good person today?
Yeah, well, I felt a lot like that the next day, where I was like, everything I did, I was like, is this normal for me to be doing, or am I acting normal, or I'm acting weird? And I mean I was, but yeah, that's all I could think about. And then I started to my mom at one point in the day took like a quiz for like a job application or something like that, or filling out a resume. There was like a quiz if you could solve all these logical equations, and my sister was helping her, and then I also helped her on a lot of the questions, like, and I managed to figure out a few of them, but I was just like, is this something I would normally be doing? Or I don't know, it was very strange. But
what was I gonna... Yeah, no, that's so right though, but like the vibe check thing really just made me remember that.
mm-hmm.
So the reason why you reminded me of something. This I went to go work with my lab group
mm-hmm.
for my biology class.
Yeah.
I'm just walking in the library, and I'm like, oh, there's one of my lab partners. Better go up there and tell him where we are. I go up to him, I sit down, I'm like, hey, okay, I'm ready to work, and he just looks at me, and he's blazed. He is so high. He is so high. He could barely keep his eyes open. And he's just so high. And I'm like, okay, you're doing this part of the lab, make sure you do it. He's like, all right, I got you. I can do that, yes, sir. He actually did fill it out. He did pretty good. Because he was actually pretty focused, because he uses weed for a medicinal purpose, he claims.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, To cut to the chase, he's taken DMT before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I found it crazy because he's like, dude, I should not have smoked. I think there's still some DMT in my pipe. And I was like, that is what? I was like, what? That's crazy, dude.
Bruh.
And he like described DMT, but like he was very vague because like, you know, he was high, but he was like, dude, when I took it, the sun was a ring. I just saw everything. I met Jesus. He said he met Jesus.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I asked him. The only thing I asked him was Jesus black? He said, yup. And I was like, yes. Yes.
This is just Kanye.
It was just Kanye on his album, you dummy. But yeah, no, he said he met Jesus, and he said the sun was a ring. Those like the two main points that he kept on saying.
Yeah.
And like apparently he took it as a powder. So he put the powder in his like little pipe and he lit it and went.
You gotta hit it like 3 times.
Yeah, that's what he said.
So he did hit it. Okay, so he must have gotten like the full blast or like the proper experience.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it 3 times, then you like almost. I've heard some people say that they almost feel like they get there, but instead they just like stick right at the edge and they feel like super stressed out, and it's just not a good experience.
Because you're so close.
Yes, because you're so close, and for like a while, and then you never pass the threshold like you're supposed to.
Yeah, but he took 3 hits apparently. So. Yeah, no, I just wanted to share that because I found that freaky deaky crazy that he just like, damn, took it. All right, that's cool.
Speaking of inhaling or just
speaking of drugs.
Speaking of that, which we talked about, I was editing episode 5 last night, and we of course I think we've talked about it in every single episode so far. But I had a dream last night. Okay. And usually when I like recount dreams that I've had, it's not interesting for anybody other than myself. But this time it was different. It's different. This time it was I think it was different anyway. It was a dream, because you know we talked a little about dreams that continue. Yeah. Like they'll stop and then the next or a week from now. I completely forgot about the first time that I had a dream like this, or the first part of the dream, until I had this one. And
wait, what'd you just say?
Like I completely forgot that this was a dream I had
triggered.
in the past. Yeah, it triggered the memory of that.
Yeah.
But it was a while ago. It was a good while. It was like at least a good year ago, probably more. Okay. And in this dream that I had last night, the same amount of time had passed. So it had also been like a year. It wasn't like it hadn't picked up immediately where it left off or anything. And it was like movies get remakes and like they change some things, but it's like the same basic story or same structure. It was kind of like that, but it was like, so the dream was, or both dreams I guess, were that we, and by we I mean me, you, Brett, Zach, Carlos,
the boys.
And also can't remember if they were in the first one, but also a few like friends that I haven't seen in years and years,
like from like 4th grade or something,
or from like 4th grade, or friends that are like my dad's friends' kids who I used to see all the time when I was young, but who I've never or haven't seen or really talked to in a while. Okay. But they were all, or a few of them were in it too. Like my cousin was one of them, and then a few others. But it was like we were going to this place to take this drug, and it's not a real drug. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like we had to do this sort of ritual, kind of like I guess DMT, in order to get the proper experience. And what the thing about this particular drug is that, whatever you like, or you have to like ask for something, like to get something out of the experience going into it, and whatever you ask to get out of it, you'll like get, and then you'll experience it, or you'll whatever, you'll take it with you in your normal life. So we went to this place. I don't know where it was, but it was like there was a lot of people there. It was like an outdoor party or something.
Oh, so it wasn't like a private warehouse or...
No, it was just like at somebody's, like at a hotel yard or something. There's a lot of people drinking and eating food, and it was like a hangout or whatever. And we all walked like through the party into this back part, which was like separated by this white gate. We pulled it back, and it was weird because like we'd already taken it prior to the stream even starting, but it's not supposed to kick in until you step into this back
gate.
part, or get through this gate.
Okay.
And you're supposed to already have thought of whatever it is that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Or that you're asking for before you go in there. And I remember I stepped back there and was like, oh shit, I haven't thought about anything. Everyone's like, oh, I got my thing. But I was like, oh fuck. So I had like, but anyway, then we stepped back there and then like everything went black.
Okay.
And this wasn't like a lucid dream.
Okay.
Because like in a lucid dream you're aware that you're dreaming, but it was like I was aware that I was on a trip, I guess. And and then we had faded back in, and we were like, we started out in this one room, but it was only like a few of us. Like I think it was just the friends that I hadn't seen in a while. I think you boys were all like in another room, and none of these rooms were actually real. It was just all like some hyper hallucination. And the way that the trip happens is that you kind of just feel numb for at first, kind of like LSD. You just feel numb for a little bit, and then you feel like get the sensation of falling like off of a skyscraper, just falling really fast. That lasts for like 10 seconds, and then that's when you're supposed to start like walking through these rooms and like experiencing all these things. And like it was just a wild time because like we walked into the next room, and like with each room it was like I was with different people like on the trip, or sometimes I was by myself. Like there was no real continuity in that sense. But it was there was also a statue of like a devil, I think, like, or it kind of looked like
what did
Satan.
it look like?
It was just like this black statue of a naked goat man standing upright with big horns.
Yeah, big curvy horns.
And like, but then there was another room that was like super sci-fi and like high tech. It looked like a room in a spaceship or something. And then there was like this other part where we were all together and we were all like riding on this roller coaster, and there was pitch black around us, and we were on this like really shitty like train tracks, kind of like a railroad, or not railroad, but like mining, like mine cart.
Yeah.
And like went through that, and then eventually it all ended when we all got to what was called the pool room, which was just this room with a swimming pool in it, and we all got into the pool and then like sank to the bottom of it slowly and like closed our eyes, and then we came up out of the trip. And it was just the feeling after like I woke up, or after it ended, the main trip, was like it felt very similar to after I was coming down from acid. It just felt like a very similar type vibe, and it was easily one of the most like memorable, wildest, positive dreams that I've had in a long time, which I appreciated, because it's not like I don't have too many dreams like that often. But it was just weird how it was like in the dream, like I'd had this before, but it was like it was the same kind of deal, but before it was like different. There wasn't like a sci-fi room, there was something else, or it was like, it was just a very interesting experience, and I don't know how interesting it is to anybody else, but it was
it means a lot to you, Kevy.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
I find that very strange, though.
Yeah.
That you, like, how many memorable dreams do you actually have?
Not many anymore. I mean, but whenever I do, it's like, it sticks with me. And a lot of the times whenever there's a memorable dream that I have, it's not even like this time it was like a really like drawn out experience, but like sometimes it's just a short scene of something happening, and it seems kind of ordinary, but it like sticks with me for some reason. And I think that's kind of like the dreams telling me something, like this is important, like you're gonna, in some way, this is gonna influence something in an important way. Like, for example, the book I'm writing came entirely from a dream I had one night. I had no thought about any of these characters or any of the world or anything until almost 4 years ago. I had a dream, which is now a scene in the book, of like just in the woods. It was I wasn't in the dream, but it was like this kid holding like a bow to this girl, this elf-like girl with red hair, and like a guy standing in between them trying to get them to back down from like wanting to hurt each other. And like that's where all of that came from. And now it's like a huge planned out story and a full book that I'm gonna publish soon. And since then, I've only had one other dream connected to that, which is also a scene in the book as well. But like every now and then, I'll get dreams that are really memorable or seem really important, and I like to incorporate that into something or other.
I didn't know your book was based off a dream, Kev.
Yep. And it's called An Elderwood Dream, because the Elderwood Forest is like an important location in it, and it's supposed to be like the overall message is connected to dreams, I guess.
did not know that.
But yeah, it all came from that one time when I had that weird dream, and
Crazy stankin' dreams.
yep. So that's epic.
What the fuck? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then but then like the second one I had was like well, it wasn't a year ago. It was like 6 months ago, and I was like stuck on one part. I was unsure of how I wanted to like write a certain chapter, and I had a dream for a scene that I could include, and the scene was just really simple. It was not to get too in depth or anything, but it's the night before. One of the main characters is a princess, and she's supposed to marry this prince of another kingdom, and it's the night before her wedding, and I'm trying to think of something for her and her close friend who's like her maidservant to do or have like a nice scene before she's shipped off to some other kingdom the next day. And it was the dream I had was just them like dancing in like practicing dancing in the big hall where the wedding's going to be the next day, and that's all it was. And now it's like I was like, that's perfect, that's exactly what I need to include in the story, and I'll put that in. And now it's one of my favorite scenes in the story. It's a nice bonding moment between two characters, but yeah, so pretty epic. I always love when that happens, and it's not often, but it's very, very cool.
Do you think you're okay in general, Kevin? I think dreams are not because of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Elaborate.
Like, I think something else is like, let's make this boy dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, yeah, I would
Wait,
kind of agree.
isn't DMT the drug that activates?
It plays a role in dreams for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Which I think is very interesting. But I agree. I think that kind of goes back to my theory of ideas. Like whenever we have an idea or a thought of wanting to do something, or a thought of something we could have done differently, or like a dream of something happening, I think those are all shadows of alternate timelines that are all equally as real as this one. Kind of like connected to the Mandela effect.
Mandela.
But it's like, I think they're all real in their own way, but we're just getting like these glimpses into them and these shadows, and we see them through dreams or through thoughts or through like daydreams or whatever. And we, because like I also think that when people write a story or make a movie or come up with a story, I think that, and I've heard other people say this too, that there's a certain, you feel like you're not entirely responsible for the art that you've made. Like there's, especially when there's something like that you're like really proud of.
Oh yeah.
And it's a difference between, because I know like what art is, or like how you define art is very like vague. Like you could say somebody like who makes tables for a living,
that's art,
is art. But like I would define it as, and in a way it is, because there's like craftsmanship that goes into it. But I would define it as if there's any sort of like, if like a person who is making tables and they're like actually passionate, like that's what they love to do, and they really put time and effort into crafting a table or something like that, then I would consider that to be art. Like there's a spin on it that's like unique to that person, rather than just like somebody who's working for a company that makes tables, and it's all, because I don't know if I would consider that art, even though there's craftsmanship involved.
Capitalism, Kevin.
But it's goddamn capitalism. But no, I think that that's especially true for like story-based art, because not to sound like pretentious, but well, maybe this is the opposite of pretentious, but I think
I don't even know what that word means.
Just like full of yourself, I guess.
Oh,
or like,
you arrogant fuck.
Yeah, arrogant.
Continue.
Like when you get ideas for like a story that you're writing, like when I get an idea for something, sometimes it'll sound good at the moment, but then other times I'll like tweak it to change it. But I think all the ideas I get for it are like not my own ideas. It's like the universe, quote unquote, is talking to me, and like I am simply the filter through which this story has to go through, and it's like my job to tell it in the way that it's supposed to be told, in the best way possible. And I got to be listening to like dreams, for example. I got to be listening to them because they'll tell me like how things should be, or what direction things should go in.
Just like a prophet
or
like
something. Kind of, actually. I've never thought about that connection, but that's like very
prophet boy.
Very close, or very similar, I guess. But like, and I'm not saying my story is the word of God or anything, but I think that ties into the theory of they're all like, there's an alternate timeline where that story is real, because if the infinite alternate timeline theory is correct, and then there's anything you could possibly imagine has happened in a parallel universe. So I think that I'm basically listening to the shadows of an alternate dimension, a story that really happened somewhere else, and it's my job to filter it and present it as a work of fiction or a book or whatever. That's what I like to think.
That's what you like to think, Kevin. That means Harry Potter's real.
That's where I first kind of thought about this at Universal Studios, walking through Harry Potter world, and I was like, this was all somebody's idea, or J.K. Rowling's idea in her head, and now it's like real life buildings, so it's like a really big shadow from a different dimension. Just like they're physical things that you can touch, but obviously there's no real magic or anything, but yeah,
I can't write books, Kevin. Books not possible.
I think I think art is kind of a thing that everybody can do, if like any kind of art, if they really like, and it's easier for some people than others.
Yeah, isn't it like left-handed or like right-brained people or whatever?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But
fucking left-handed people.
I think I'm no expert writer. I look back at my early drafts of the book and they're absolute garbage. Like, the story I think is still good, but the actual writing is complete shite.
Complete hot garbage. Fucking garbage.
Compared to like the final draft that I'm working on now, which I think is much better.
Oh God.
But that's a good sign of improvement, that you look back and you're like, wow, that was bad, but now I'm doing better stuff. Because inevitably I'll look back and I'll be like, wow, that wasn't so good. I'm doing even better stuff. And that's just the way it goes with, if you're actually improving, then that's the way you'll look at things in the past.
Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with what you just said except the Mandela effect.
Okay.
Which wrist are my bracelets on?
I didn't know you wore bracelets.
God damn it.
Sorry, I don't pay attention to...
Okay, well,
like
they're
that.
on my right wrist, okay?
Okay.
And for the longest time, I thought they were on my left wrist. And
you thought they were on your left wrist.
For the longest time. Like, 2 days ago, I was brushing my teeth,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, wait, I have my bracelets on my right wrist? What the fuck? That's not possible. And they're the friendship bracelets. Like, you can't just take these off, you know?
Yeah.
You have to like cut them or like rip them off.
Mm-hmm.
So I swear to God, they were on my left wrist, but now they're on my right wrist, and it's kind of fucking me up.
That's weird.
And then when you said Mandela effect, I was like, huh, that's probably Mandela effect.
Well, we probably just jumped from the alternate dimension where
it was on my left hand.
Your left, and that was real. It's just we're not there anymore.
I swear to God, they were on my... Yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to build off of when you said that.
Nice.
But like, fuck. Mandela effect, that's scary.
South Carolina primary is today. It's the fourth of the last 4 big states before Super Tuesday, which is this Tuesday, which has like 15 different states or some high amount of number that are all going to be voting and giving out their delegates. Unfortunately,
yep.
Now our boy Bernie is 3 for 3 so far. Unfortunately, it kind of looks like sloppy Joe Biden is going to be annihilating, like kicking ass in South Carolina. The last polls I saw showed him like 15 points up somehow, and with
What?
Yeah, Bernie in like second or sometimes even third place in South Carolina. So fuck South Carolina.
What's in South Carolina?
Where is South Carolina? It's
I don't know. It doesn't exist, Kevin.
There is no South Carolina.
What the fuck?
It's just a lot of like conservative people, so they like Joe Biden because he's in the middle and
He's old.
He's old, and they know Obama. Where is South Carolina?
Kevin, you want to hear a psychological fact?
Sure.
Obama was not the first black president.
Is that so?
Yeah, it's a psychological fact.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, look for South. Yeah, okay, yeah, I know where South Carolina is. I thought that was Virginia for some reason.
Wait.
There it is.
Okay. So apparently it does exist, but no one lives there.
Yeah. So, yeah, Joe Biden might be taking this one home. Probably will, actually.
Is that a big deal? That's not a big deal.
Well, it's not a huge deal. Now, if we'd gotten South Carolina, then basically that would have been, like, shut, like, case closed. Like, we got this in the bag. Now that Joe Biden is going to win South Carolina, it'll probably give him, like, a lot of more hope, a lot of positive press from the media. And just, like, he'll probably be a little bit more of a force to be reckoned with going into Super Tuesday. But that being said, I think Bernie's leading in almost every poll by quite some margin in Super Tuesday. I know in California he's leading by like 20 points, which is absolutely crazy. Like that's an insanely big margin.
Let's go.
But yeah, so that's looking good. He should hopefully clean sweep Super Tuesday, and then the week after, the following Tuesday is when we have our primary, and a lot of other states do too. But yeah. It's the absolute bull honkery that's going on right now.
Whoa!
In the last
Kevin.
2 weeks, what we've seen is the media realizing, and not just the media, the establishment realizing that they are fucked, and that they're not going to stop Bernie easily because they have gone full on terrified by Bernie and his supporters because they're saying crazy shit. They're like, they tried to say that the Russians are influencing Bernie and wanting him to win, which is bullshit.
That's dangerous to say.
They also, that is dangerous to say, but that's such BS because they said that about Trump too, and that actually was like not true. Trump was not colluding with the Russians. It's like that's just a stupid conspiracy theory, but. That was BS, and they have absolutely no connection to Bernie or whatever. And also, Bernie said something about Cuba. He said Fidel Castro, who was like a crazy dictator guy there.
Mm-hmm.
He said was that during Castro's like rule, the literacy rate in Cuba jumped up like from some really low percentage to like 95% of the people could read, and everybody flipped the hell out at him because he's like, Bernie Sanders loves Castro and loves all that, and he's like, no, Castro sucked, he was a horrible dictator. And Obama said the exact same thing I said in 2016. There's literally video of him saying the exact same thing, and nobody cared then, but you care now because you're just trying to grasp at straws saying. And then the most recent debate, which was on Tuesday and was an absolute shit show, they kept bashing on him for like, how are you going to pay for your plan, Bernie? How are you going to pay for it? You haven't said how you're going to pay for it, even though the couple nights before he literally released a full extensive detailed plan on his website about exactly how they're going to pay for everything, and it all checks out. A bunch of places were like, yep, this checks out, we did the math. And then of course you have Mike Bloomberg, our favorite boy.
No, he's not.
Mike Bloomberg is worse than Donald Trump. Straight up. And Donald Trump almost started World War III, and I fully believe that Mike Bloomberg is a worse human being than Donald Trump. At the debate before this last one, which was last week, on Thursday, he absolutely bombed. He was the worst debater I've ever seen in any debate. He was stumbling over his words.
What did he say? Did he say he hated black people or something?
He just said dumb. He said nothing. He said dumb shit. And Elizabeth Warren kept attacking him. And I really like that she did this. She was like, Mike Bloomberg has 64 non-disclosure agreements with women who he's sexually harassed, and they've all been forced to sign NDAs in order so they can't say anything. Why don't you release all those? If you have nothing to hide, release all those women from their NDAs right now. Just say you're gonna release them. Just say it. And Mike Bloomberg's like, no, we signed a legal contract, so that's not gonna happen. And then like just everybody was bashing him hardcore over a stop and frisk BS and. Over,
isn't that like the police can check you?
Yeah, they can just slam you against the wall and pat you down for no
I'm pretty
reason.
sure and Donald Trump was also supporting that too, right?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard him talk about it, but
Huh.
I know that it was ruled unconstitutional by Obama, and that's why it stopped, and also that they were targeting black people way more than white people.
Exactly. That's
and
why.
that crime actually dropped after stop and frisk stopped. Like, it actually went down. So it wasn't helping anything. And then he still like defended it up until last year or something when he started running for president, even though it was ruled unconstitutional like 4 years ago.
Because the people didn't like it.
But anyway, yeah, Mike Bloomberg is an awful oligarch who's bought himself into into the debates, into the race, is buying like support online. At the most recent debate, or at the first time he was up there, the one before that, he got like a ton of boos from the crowd, which was great. But at this most recent one, he got a ton of cheers, and Bernie got like a ton of boos. And we found out during the debate that you had to pay like $2,000 in order to get into, like to be a part of the audience. And it looks pretty for sure that Mike Bloomberg bought a bunch of people and put them in the audience to cheer for him and boo for Bernie. And
that makes sense.
And then there was a new headline on CNN today that I don't know the context, I don't know anything, but the headline was, "Can we stop coronavirus and Bernie Sanders?" That was the headline, like question mark. They were like comparing Bernie Sanders to the coronavirus.
'Cause he's the one that developed the coronavirus, Kevin.
Yep, and also now they're saying that if a vaccine is developed for the coronavirus, it's going to cost a shitload of money, which is exactly why we need Medicare for all, so it can be free and everybody can get it and nobody has to die. Such BS, bro.
80,000 people infected by coronavirus in China.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. 10% of the world's population is under quarantine right now. That's how many people are in China. Like 700 million people or something. That's a lot of people.
Oh my god. Let's just kill them all.
So we're all fucked.
Why don't we just kill the people with corona?
I agree.
Oh, no, that doesn't work. I literally just remembered that. That's what I wanted to talk about. There's a person in Washington that lives out in the country, had no contact with the coronavirus whatsoever, tested positive for it, just randomly.
Damn, that's scary.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's the only reason I remember.
You can just get it then. That's weird.
You can just get it. It's airborne now, Kevin. You have to breathe each other's air. Fuck.
So yeah, good times to be had by everybody. That's really all I have to say about politics.
Oh my god.
The last debate was a mess and it was really frustrating to watch. Pete the Rat Buttigieg, Mayo Pete, several times like talked over Bernie's entire answer. So what he did was like Bernie like said something about his healthcare plan or something, and Pete's like, "Well, let's talk about it, Bernie. Let's talk about how much it's going to cost. Hey, let's talk about. Hey, well, yeah, I want to talk about it. Hey, I want to." And the moderators did nothing to shut his ass up, and he talked over Bernie's entire answer, and it's like, and they didn't shut off his mic or just like, shut the fuck up, you rat-faced piece of shit. I hate you. Oh my god, I hate that man, but I hate Mike Bloomberg even more.
Fuck that rat. Oh, you know what I've been hearing a lot about? Well, not a lot, but like, I was scrolling through the beloved app TikTok.
Nice.
And it was a Sonic video, and he was like, "You know what's crazy about the Las Vegas shooter? Have you heard like anything about the Las Vegas shooter recently?"
Not recently, but
so like apparently, there's just a bunch of videos going around on TikTok, like just like exposing quote unquote the Las Vegas shooter like incident, and like apparently over like 5,000 or 3,000 rounds were released during were fired during the shooting, and they were all from these like AR-15s, and then but like they were like, but according to this video from one of the shooting survivors, there were actually 3 points from where fire came from, and the fire rate was way higher than an AR-15, and on top of that, the fire rate was constant. So, like, apparently the shooter brought like 45 guns,
Shitload of guns, yeah.
a shitload of guns, and they're like, but there was no stop to reload or switch guns. It was just 3 constant streams of fire. I was like, whoa. Don't know if that's real or not, but if it's real, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I've heard that conspiracy. I heard that conspiracy when it first happened. And how there's like no video of the shooter, I don't think. I'm pretty sure there's no video of him like walking into the hotel or anything. But I mean, I haven't seen any like actual evidence to support that, and everybody said like, nah, that's BS, and I don't know what to make of that. I don't follow really shootings in general. I don't follow too much, and that's kind of because like, I mean, that's like that's tough because that's almost always it's just like this one lone crazy guy who gets his hands on a gun and just like shoots people. It's not like a
terrorist act.
It's not like a terrorist act, and if it's a terrorist act, then that's different. But it's like it's and as bad as like that all shootings are, and it's guns aren't necessarily something I'm super passionate about, like one way or the other. And also I think there's just far more problems. I feel like in a way all the craziness or the hysteria, I guess, about shootings and guns in general is almost like is similar to the immigration thing. It's like a distraction from the bullshit that the government and the establishment is really like doing, like the wars in the Middle East, the healthcare system, the like just the overall nightmare, and the fact that the 1% are ruling the country. And I feel like because like 50,000 or 45,000 people die every year because they don't have access to basic healthcare, compared to a way smaller amount of die because of shootings, which again, that's still tragic, but they feel like there's way more that we could do about the healthcare thing than we could do about the gun thing, and that's like
because gun control debates are like they're very, I don't know, strict and like complicated, I guess.
Yeah, because when we talked about like the gun thing in AGGI, I'm like don't really have a strong opinion. I don't think all guns should be banned. Now, if I could, it's kind of similar to alcohol actually, and this is probably a controversial opinion. If I could like snap my fingers Thanos style and just every single gun would be like turned to dust and erased from the face, like everywhere, and there would be no like fallout or consequences, like zero, then I probably would do that. I'd probably just erase it all, because then there'd be nobody would have any more guns. Like, do we really need? I don't. Especially in this modern day and age, we're not going out and hunting too much anymore, and
no, yeah,
like and I'd probably do the same thing with alcohol, with how much death that causes, probably way more than guns, I guess. It doesn't
definitely
seem like a necessary thing, but of course we don't live in that kind of scenario, and it's way more complicated than that. Obviously prohibition was tried and it was an absolute shit show, so we should not do that. And same with guns. Like, I don't think you can just ban all guns. At the same time, there should be like extensive background checks, and some guns should be not allowed, and also I think maybe a certain amount of guns per household, or maybe per person. Either way, there should be like a limit to how many you can have.
Yeah.
But aside from like those things, I don't really know.
I'm not
what the solution is. Yeah, I'm not an expert by any means. Not something I follow super closely. But,
nope. It's too scary.
Yeah, it's just too.
It's too touchy.
Yeah.
Because everyone's a bitch. Everyone's a bitch.
All right. Does that conclude this episode of the podcast?
This concludes that episode of the podcast.
Nice. The end of episode 7.
Adios. Episode 6.
Baby.